I'm Emily Chang in San Francisco, and this is Bloomberg Technology. Coming up this hour, meme stock mayhem. GameStop is hit with 6 trading halts as volatility spikes. We will track the stomach-churning swings, which included other stocks like AMC and headphone maker Koss. Plus, is it gambling? Some institutional investors believe all the meme market hype is just that, and customers on apps like Robinhood trade stocks like lottery tickets. Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev strongly rejects that notion. We will have his full interview coming up on a special edition of Bloomberg Studio 1.0. And pandemic darling Roblox enters the public market via a direct listing. Shares surge as much as 16%. The CEO says the gaming company has big plans into the future. The metaverse is part of it. We'll watch my interview with David Baszucki. All those stories in a moment, but first, U.S. equities advancing as the rotation into value stocks resume following a weak inflation report. Our Ed Ledlow has got a look at the market, starting with some of the big-name tech earnings after the bell. Ed, walk us through what you're watching.
Yeah, with everything that's going on, you kind of forget that there are still companies reporting earnings in the quarter, starting with Oracle, a name we haven't really talked about too much compared to some of the bigger tech companies, but it's the world's second largest software maker. It reported revenue basically in line with estimates, but is falling, as you can see, down almost 3% in after hours. It boosted its quarterly cash dividend by a third to 32 cents. Maybe it's a sell the news type of event. It's hard to say. You know, Larry Ellison really banking on the idea that as the economy reopens, small and medium-sized businesses will start reinvesting in themselves, shifting things like accounting, HR software to the cloud. And Oracle really a latecomer to the cloud. One stock on the up, though, in after hours, though, Bumble. You know all about Bumble, Emily. You've interviewed the CEO very recently. It's a recent IPO. This is the dating app where women make the first move. Soaring in after hours, up almost 6%. Giving a really positive full year 2021 revenue forecast, saying that revenue will be between 716 and 726 million, slightly above street estimates. It's all about the return to normal, right? They found relevancy during the pandemic because so many of us connecting digitally. But at some point, we've got to leave our homes. And I'm sure a few people will be wanting to go on dates, get back out there. And that's the hope investors have in this stock as well. If we just want to look at Oracle shares, though, you know, it's down after hours, but you can see that incredible run-up in the share price over recent weeks, outpacing the S&P 500, hitting a fresh record. So that's why I say this might be a sell the news kind of event. We've got to talk about GameStop. Oh, we got to talk about GameStop. Bring it up on the board because it's just been a roller coaster of a day. At one point, up almost 40%. Over the course of 18 minutes, falling to be down 30% and then treading water for the rest of the session. What's going on? I don't know. It's hard to say, but it prompted one TD Ameritrade strategist to say that those willing to invest in GameStop right now, he likened it to running into a burning building. So that's one take on what's happening with GameStop right now. Of course, it's a really popular stock on the Reddit forums. And interestingly, another stock that's had a buzz about it on the Reddit forums today is Roblox, making its debut in the public markets, having a pretty decent day, up more than 7%, ending the day with a market cap of more than $38 billion. That's not bad for a public debut where the shares opened above 64 cents. This is one that's found, again, relevancy during the pandemic. All of us playing a lot on our phones, really good performance in it, video games platform on the mobile phone. It's dominated a lot of the charts and, it's made its public debut today on a positive start.
Absolutely, Ed. A lot of us, including my kids, on Roblox. I did ask the CEO, David Baszucki, about whether he's concerned about being a meme stock trade target. You'll hear his answer a bit later in the show. But there's been a lot of attention, Ed, on the broader picture here, financial markets with the stimulus package, the success of the vaccine rollout. Give us the bigger picture.
Yeah, so broadly, US equities higher. It's the first time we've had 2 consecutive days in the green for a couple of weeks. A lot of choppy trading. We've been sort of swinging between days where this rotation into value is taking place, where stocks that are tied closely to an economic reopening are favored, and tech's sort of less popular. You can see the NASDAQ 100 down by a third of 1%. But yesterday up 10%. It's really choppy trading while broader market, the S&P 500 up of 0.6%. A lot of volatility in chip stocks recently as well. Monday down 5%. Tuesday up 6%. Wednesday down, underperforming, down almost 2%. Come with me into my Bloomberg and look at this chart, and you can really see what I'm talking about right now. There's a lot of chop changes for tech stocks. Some days, what we're looking at is a lot of days in the green, but there are more days in the red right now as investors try to decide what's more important to them. Stocks closely tied to an economic reopening, or are they still going for the tech stocks, which are so popular during the pandemic?
All right, Ed, thank you. Thanks for bringing it. Appreciate it. Sticking with the market moves of the day, I want to bring in Michael Purvis, CEO and founder of Tallbacking Capital Advisors. Michael, what's your metaphor for the GameStop meme stock trade? Is it like running into a burning building or something else?
I'm more of an observer in all of that. I will tell you, my 19-year-old daughter, was asking me yesterday whether she should sell the remainders of her GME, and I said yes. And I think she wisely only took half my advice, just sold a little bit. But honestly, I think you're dealing with. It's very hard to really come up with a real classically. To come up with a valuation for GameStop, at the numbers that it's been trading at today and yesterday and so forth, that to me resonates, right? And I think one thing that just is your guest was just discussing, what is this gambling or is this investing and all that. And I think there's a lot of confusion about what is really happening there. There's a lot of people who are making money in it, but there's also some very valid investment cases in GameStop. Someone told me that there was a case running around on WSB for like a $30,000 share price there. So I think new investors just have to really step back and just realize that this kind of frenzied activity. What happens is the narratives start taking over, and the laws of sort of financial physics ultimately will reassert themselves at some point. So you just recognize what you're working with. If you want to be, trading volatile stocks, that's fine, but just make sure you have stop losses and so forth in place.
All questions we're going to ask Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev when Studio 1.0 starts at the bottom of the hour. What is your broader long-term view on tech and its weighting in your portfolio? Do you think we're at the beginning of a longer term correction here, or is this a blip and things are going to keep going up?
Well, my view right now, we've seen a lot of sensitivity of tech stocks to interest rates, with interest rates climbing over the last few weeks. And that correlation, the factor pair correlation with 10-year interest rates, for example, has skyrocketed there. My view is that the interest rates narrative is really overblown. And I think it's also misinterpreted. It's not really about your discounted cash flows being worth less because the risk-free rate has gone up. It's more to do with the fact that, like, if you look at the NDX, that nominal earnings yield spread to the 10-year treasury yield is a lot tighter than it is in other indices. And at the same time, in value indices or cyclicals, those baskets are looking at very, very large earnings acceleration. So that's going to provide even more buffer for that sort of relative value to treasuries argument. With all that being said, I think over the next several months and probably throughout the rest of the year, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more bifurcation where the big established tech companies, the Microsofts, the Amazons, and the Googles really reassert themselves, and some of the real story stocks kind of decouple, and some of them will be probably amazing, and a whole bunch of them will probably be a lot less than amazing. So I think it's really important to bifurcate, established cash flow, established position companies that are sort of dominating the high end of the NDX versus some of the really, really interesting and potentially very valuable companies down the road, but the the valuations associated with them have been very, very stretched. So right. I would expect that to be some polarization within tech that way.
Now, Roblox had a good day, but if you look at recent SPACs, recent IPOs, they've been slumping compared to, Bumble, Airbnb, both of those companies doubling on their opening days. I know you were listening in when I spoke with Cathie Wood the other day. She sort of encapsulates what is so controversial about this market. Curious what your thoughts are on her strategy, obviously making big bets and staying committed to names despite pullback across the board.
Right. Well, I mean, I think one thing that's clearly been talked about a lot is just that when you're in the structure she's in, she's not at a venture capital firm, she's not at a private equity firm with locked-in money. She's in a liquid vehicle, so liquidity risk is really, really important. There, particularly for the smaller, less liquid names, right? And so, if investors are expecting the convenience and liquidity of an ETF, but the names in there are scaling fast in terms of the amount of inflows and capital that's being invested in those companies. You just have to, at some point, it's just a recipe for some nasty downside performance, not just for that ETF, but for those names itself. Simply, she may be a forced seller if she does get sustained redemptions, which she really hasn't so far. So that's one thing, and I think it'd be nice to see how she's really thinking through liquidity management as she scales her ETF. On the other hand, I thought she made a very good point in your interview about the fact that growth versus value. Well, so many value stocks, right? Whether they're banks or whether they're energy companies or so forth, are facing massive structural change thanks to technology, right? And so,
Right.
I've seen this over and over again with my clients that are value investors, where they underestimate that. And so, I think she made a really, really good point there. But I think one other facet of, sorry.
Mike, I want to hear more. We'll have to have you back. We got to go because we've got some tape later in the show. But thanks so much for stopping by and for giving us your unvarnished view of what's happening. Michael Purvis, CEO and founder of Tallback & Capital Advisors there. All right, coming up, in its public debut, game maker Roblox makes some real money off its virtual world. We'll hear from the CEO about why he thought the direct listing for his company was the right way to go. That's next. This is Bloomberg. Shares of the online gaming company Roblox soaring in their public debut, closing more than 8% above its opening trade, $64.50 on the New York Stock Exchange. I spoke with the CEO, David Baszucki, earlier, along with my colleague, Guy Johnson.
We have a value around our community, taking the long view and respecting the community. What we're so excited about today is that everyone's coming together. Our long-term employees, some of our amazing investors who have been with us for a long time and have really supported us, our new investors who we're really excited to bring into our community, and possibly small investors who are familiar with Roblox. We love the direct listing for Roblox because we're all going to come together, and that first trade will be at the same price for everyone.
So speaking of smaller investors, are you at all concerned about becoming a meme stock target? There's analysts out there saying that, retail traders could take you on just like the GameStop, for better or for worse.
One of our values is take the long view, and with the company over the last 7 months, as we started talking about coming here to be public, is really looking to the future. We're looking 2 years out. We're focused on building the platform, the technology, building an amazingly civil society, finding the amazing people to power Roblox. And we're really not watching what's going on right now with meme stops.
My kids and I spent some time on Roblox preparing for this interview with you today. They're still a little young, but they would stay on there for hours if I let them. What are your plans for post-pandemic growth? I know you're expecting growth to slow this year. How do you continue to grow when we're not on lockdown? And how do you reach older adults too?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been growing for 15 years, and everyone at Roblox wants COVID to end as soon as possible. We reach out to everyone around this. But looking to the future, what's powered our growth is the amazing content on the platform and also people coming together on the platform. Today, a lot of the time to play, but in the future, more and more, it will be to learn together or to work together. inside Roblox, we're holding our company town halls on Roblox and our holiday party. And later today, we're all going to go into a Roblox virtual New York Stock Exchange and get to celebrate this. There's amazing growth opportunities for us in bringing everyone together around the world, connecting people of all ages, and as we expand, thinking about a new vision for what this type of technology will support.
So let's talk about content. The first game my kid found was a shooter. It's very popular in my school community. Parents want to know about content moderation. Parents want to know about settings and whether you will provide us the tools to better gatekeep the app for our children.
Yeah, safety and civility is our absolute top priority, and it's what forms really the foundation of everything we do on Roblox. There are thousands of moderators who are watching all the content. We screen all of the content on the platform. We have computer filtering as well. It's really the basis for building a civil society on the platform that we believe can help bring people together.
Now, I want to ask you about your vision for the metaverse, which is this far out idea that we're all going to be living and working and playing in a virtual world. Elon Musk thinks we're already living in a computer simulation. What is your vision, and how soon does it take to get to this metaverse that you've imagined?
Well, we have an optimistic vision around the metaverse, just as books or as video has brought us together and helped us learn. We're optimistic that someday in schools, when people are studying ancient Rome, they'll travel together to experience ancient Rome. We're also optimistic that as this metaverse comes into reality, people will understand physical versus digital, and they'll balance that just as they do with video and books today.
And talk a bit about how this looks like from a parent's point of view. Emily brought up the issue of kind of keeping it clean. And I'm really curious because my kids play this. They are on it quite regularly. But I'm really curious, how much is it going to cost you to keep this platform clean as a percentage of sales? And do you see that number rising as it becomes bigger and bigger?
Yeah, we've seen one of the exciting things about the Roblox platform is the more we build systems and the more we augment people with computer algorithms and computer filtering, most of our systems have scaled very, very well with our users. Our infrastructure is scaling well, so we don't see any issue with scaling that moderation function, which forms the foundation, really, of the platform.
So, David, do you think you're going to be opening up more platforms? Because certainly there are, in my experience, huge numbers of kids out there that have got their Nintendos. They can play all kinds of other games on it. The one they can't seem to play on it is Roblox right now.
Yeah, it's a really great point, and it highlights our vision for the Roblox platform, and that this immersive social 3D that brings people together, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a computer, a gaming console, someday maybe even a set-top TV box, and of course VR. These are all ways for people to access that content. We're on phones, tablets, computers right now. We're on the Xbox, we're not on the Switch, but those are all awesome potential future places for Roblox.
Now, David, you got a lot of cash now. Any plan to use that cash for acquisitions to advance these big plans?
Nothing announced, but we've made two incredible acquisitions in the last 3 months, both Loom as well as Embellis, and that would be a natural way, place for us to look as we grow this amazing platform.
My interview there with Roblox CEO David Baszucki. We will keep our eye on them. Coming up, a big pushback from Facebook as it makes the first formal response to a massive FTC lawsuit. We will have all the details on this high-stakes battle next. This is Bloomberg.
Big tech is now more powerful than ever.
You think they are?
Yes, they are more powerful economically. We rely on them more economically. They are more powerful socially. We rely on them more for our connections. And they are more powerful politically. We need to break up big tech.
Senator Elizabeth Warren there with Bloomberg's Kevin Cirilli talking about her concerns about the power of big tech, calling for their breakup. Meantime, Facebook has filed a formal motion to a federal judge to dismiss an antitrust lawsuit by the FTC, the social network saying the government is attempting a do-over, trying to unwind acquisition that got approval years ago. Joining us now for more, Bloomberg's David McLaughlin, who's following the case. David, what's Facebook's argument here? And could they actually get this suit thrown out?
Well, certainly that's what they're trying to do. So they're trying to knock it out of court at this very early stage. The case was filed in December. This is their first formal, response to the government's lawsuit. They make a lot of arguments, but one of the key things that they say is that, as you said, the government is trying to do a do-over. They reviewed both of these deals, the Instagram and WhatsApp deals. They investigated them years ago, and now they're trying to come back and unwind them.
Facebook lists a bunch of services that they compete with: TikTok, Twitter, Snap, LinkedIn, saying that the government is ignoring the realities of the competition that they face. What happens next now that Facebook has made this move?
Right. So the FTC and the states that sued will respond to this, and then ultimately will go to a judge. There could be an argument before the judge, and it's certainly possible that it gets dismissed. I think that's probably unlikely, but we'll see. And on the competitors, I think one of the other key issue here will be, well, what is this market? Who are Facebook's real competitors? Is there really a social media market that is just Facebook, or are there many other players? That's going to be a key issue in the case.
And doesn't Facebook have other suits to worry about?
Well, the main one really right now is this FTC case and the state cases. They are both sort of running in parallel. I think the fact that there are two cases gives the government, the states and the federal government, two attempts at undoing these deals.
All right, David McLaughlin, we will continue to follow. Thank you for your reporting on this. Coming up, Vlad Tenev wants investing to be as ubiquitous as shopping on Amazon. He is one of the most controversial and compelling CEOs in tech yet. My wide-ranging interview with him up next on a special edition of Bloomberg Studio 1.0. This is Bloomberg.